What's going on, friends? Harley-Davidson is making a lot of changes, a lot of bold changes, and a lot of things just are completely different than they used to be in regards to Harley-Davidson. That's just not with the company itself, but also with other companies that have supported us with Harley-Davidson parts through the years, i.e. the aftermarket. A lot of aftermarket companies are even expanding away from Harley-Davidson. While they are continuing to make Harley-Davidson parts, they are also branching out into other manufacturers as well. Now for Harley-Davidson, it's going to be a very interesting road ahead to see what lies in the future in the next 10 to 15 years. As times change with Harley-Davidson, I feel like we are finding less and less reasons to buy Harley-Davidson motorcycles. As many of you have mentioned in the comments to me, there are a lot better bikes out there. Now, I won't disagree with you there. There are a heck of a lot more manufacturers out there in which you do get a lot more motorcycle for what you pay for it. Now, Harley-Davidson, yes, they do have an accessory catalog. You could do all that to it. But as many of you know, you're already paying a premium price for the motorcycle, and then you have to add on all the additional accessories at your own expense, which it does become pretty costly when a lot of other bikes already come standard with a lot of these features. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now, buying a Harley-Davidson, they used to always push, you're not just buying a motorcycle, you're buying a lifestyle. And I truly find that to be very accurate. You meet a lot of wonderful people riding a Harley-Davidson. You meet other people that are just as passionate about the motorcycles and the brand as you are. And you guys can exchange ideas and learn from each other. And it's just a wonderful community. It really is. And I'm not excluding the motorcycle community as a whole. You have that just about anywhere. But with Harley-Davidson, it was always something different. You pull up, you see other guys' bikes like yours. They're like yours is like theirs, but no two are exactly 110% alike. And that is one thing I've always loved about Harley-Davidson. Now, with a lot of the changes going on with the company, I guarantee you a lot of that is not things that Harley-Davidson wants to do themselves. It's being forced down through government regulation. That's a lot of the reason why we're seeing water-cooled bikes from Harley-Davidson these days, meaning the Milwaukee 8 with the liquid-cooled heads. Somewhere in there, that has got misconstrued is that these bikes are water-cooled. They are not fully water-cooled, only the heads are liquid-cooled. The rest of the bike, the cylinders, everything, that is still air-cooled, so it's not exactly fully water-cooled. But when it comes to the Sportsters, we lost kind of the bread and butter of Harley-Davidson that got everybody in there, and I covered that in last week's video. But to me, that is just less incentive to buy a Harley-Davidson. They no longer have a less expensive model that's like the bigger bikes they want to get you on. The less expensive model, it's completely water-cooled now. And having the Sportster completely water-cooled, that right there, to me, in my mind, just kind of blows the incentive that you got to get somebody on a Harley-Davidson. Why would I want to buy a liquid-cooled Harley-Davidson when I could go out and buy a similar bike to that costs less and I'm getting more with it for what I'm paying? Now, there's a lot of ways to look at that, and we're going to find out if Harley-Davidson can actually carry on living on its name. Harley-Davidson for years has really kind of carried on living on its name, living on its heritage, and living on its history. That's worked for them for as long as I can remember, and I'm sure as long as you guys out there that are a little older than me can probably remember back even further. So what's going to be interesting to see going forward in the next 10 to 15 years is if Harley-Davidson can continue to produce motorcycles that bring out that emotion and that feeling that the older bikes give us. You know what I'm talking about if you've been around Harley-Davidson long enough. You feel that connection to those motorcycles, that connection to the road when you're riding down. It's just something different about being on a Harley-Davidson. Now, I haven't personally spent enough time on the newer bikes to really say, yeah, I still feel that connection with them. But are these liquid-cooled ones coming up in the Sportster line? Are they still going to create that bond between the rider, the machine, and the road? those are some serious things to be looking at. Because as I mentioned, what incentive is there anymore for anybody to spend extra on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle? Just so you could spend more in the accessory catalog? Maybe because you could dress it up, dress it down a little more than any of the other machines out there? I don't know. I'm going to be really curious to see how that pans out. Because these newer bikes, they're just not like the older ones. And yeah, obviously, I know there's more technology in them. The times are changing, things are moving on. But do these new bikes actually have what it takes to get riders hooked on riding Harley-Davidson motorcycles? Or is there no incentive to actually spend the money to get these anymore? The goal for a lot of people, including myself, was to finally get to a position where I could afford a Harley-Davidson. I could finally get one of those bikes. And I kind of feel like we are losing that in pretty short order just because of the cost of the motorcycles and the fact that, I'm just going to say it, I feel like the new bikes are really kind of losing the character that everything had that came after the twin cam. Now, I'm not saying the Milwaukee 8 bikes are bad by any length of the means. I think everything up until this 2024 redesign still carries that legacy, that heritage, everything that we loved about Harley-Davidson, and obviously some of the things we hated about Harley-Davidson in terms of some of the gremlins that come along with owning any newer Harley-Davidson engine that just came out. And not to mention, guys, as I mentioned in previous videos, dealerships are changing. It's not the mom and pop privately owned dealerships. They're all owned by large corporations anymore these days. Used to be a lot of the incentive and the big draw for me to get into Harley-Davidson years and years ago and start riding them was the people that I met at the dealerships. Now, granted, a lot of the people that have been around a dealership a long time through name changes, management changes, a lot of them are still there. They are wonderful folks, but it's just not the same. And I think anybody that's watching these that works in a dealership that's went from being privately owned by mom and pop going to a corporation, I believe you would agree that maybe your workplace completely changed and nothing was exactly the same. Yeah, you still came to work, you still saw the same people, but it wasn't the same camaraderie, and at the same time, you lose a lot of loyal customers when that happens. It's really getting to the point now where, yeah, you can go talk to the manager of the dealership, and yeah, they can still get things done, but they can't get things done at the level that they used to when they could go and talk to the owner face to face, or you could yourself. That's getting really hard to find these days because a lot of the dealerships, they're nameless, faceless corporations. So that right there is kind of another loss in the corner to actually get new riders to come to Harley-Davidson. Now, I did mention that a lot of aftermarket companies that have been huge supporters of Harley-Davidson throughout the years with aftermarket parts, accessories, all the things that Harley-Davidson basically failed to do at the factory, they picked up the slack and made it 10 times better for us. And S&S is a huge one. Now, many of y'all may know that S&S has been supporting Indian, definitely King of the Baggers. S&S has been a huge supporter of them, and they're also selling parts related to Indian as well as the FTR 750 in flat track. But another little thing that you may not have picked up on is that S&S has actually expanded into Royal Enfield. They're actually making parts and performance accessories for Royal Enfield. You get a Royal Enfield aftermarket factory exhaust, it's made by S&S, which is pretty cool, you know, that S&S is expanding their business and growing a little bit. But it's just really curious that S&S isn't solely focused on Harley-Davidson anymore. So definitely something to think about in the changing times in regards to Harley-Davidson and if they are going to actually still be able to sell motorcycles in 10 to 15 years based on just their name, heritage, legacy, everything that made Harley-Davidson great in the past. But anyhow, guys, I want your opinions. I want to know what got you into Harley-Davidson and what has kept you coming back to Harley-Davidson, continuing to ride them, continuing to buy parts, build your bikes, and keep the same bike for 10 or 15 years. What's kept you from leaving and going to other brands? But guys, if you would, let me know in the comments what you think Harley-Davidson needs to do to try to keep selling motorcycles in 10 to 15 years. What do you think is going to get the riders some incentive to come back to Harley-Davidson or even choose Harley-Davidson over any other brand out there? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But till next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge those cars, and I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.